Awesome, guys. Grateful to be with you. This is wild. You guys have popped out of the screens. I want to ask a few questions before we jump in. It's going to be a bit quicker speed. I have a lot to get through in the first 20, 30 minutes. Is that cool? Okay. And then I'll kind of open it up more up to Q&A and to be a little bit more interactive. But I have a bunch to get through. Just show of hands, who here wants to run this particular business for at least the next year? Raise your hand.
For the next year?
Yeah, at least for the next year. Yeah. Who here wants to run this particular business for the rest of your life?
Who would operate for the rest of my life? I don't know if I want to run it.
For the rest of your working life, in some shape or form. You can be owner, you can be,
Okay,
Yeah.
Who here wants to build a team? Okay. Very good. Who here wants to scale to at least $40,000 a month? To at least $80,000 a month? To at least $100,000 a month? To at least $300,000 a month? To at least $500,000 a month? Okay, all right. Just seeing how relevant these phases will be is very good. That's super helpful. So, ready to jump in?
Good.
Okay, title. The title is Solopreneur to Business Owner Roadmap. Okay, so I'm going to essentially be sharing a quick breakdown of like the 6 phases of getting your business to, I can't speak beyond where we're at, but at least $500,000 a month. I can speak to that. And building a team, and I'm going to be talking about a few of the ladders within these phases. One of them, which is a hiring ladder, so how to actually build a team if you want to build a team, which pretty much most of you want to do that. And then also talking about a product ladder. There's some other ladders as well, like skills ladder, belief ladder, but I want to kind of just let you guys guide that component, and I can talk about many failures, many beliefs that had to break in order to get to you guys all being here and the business being where it's at. So let's jump in. So I'm going to be using this whiteboard. Hopefully it's decently legible. If you guys can't see it, then get somewhere where you can, or you guys maybe some of you can just sit right here just while I use this, or however you want to do it. So you can sit here too if you like, just as long as you're not in front of the. Go ahead. Awesome. So phase 1 is simply called validated offer. Okay. All right. I might have to change my angle to make that better and more legible. Phase 1 validated offer. So this is generally like 0 to 20 or 30K a month. Okay. 0 to 20 or 30-ish K per month. And essentially, the key outcome in this phase is to get 10 perfect strangers who are not referrals, not followers, don't know you from anything, to buy your product. That's like, okay, we've done it. We got at least 10 strangers who don't know us at all, who don't know me at all, to buy my product. And essentially, the way we're going to do that is to see what's hitting and not hitting when it comes to how you're communicating your product, right? Because people are buying based on how you're communicating. They're not actually buying on the reality of the product. You guys get that? Like, because they have to pay you before they get access to anything. So it's just your communication of what you do and being able to iterate and see what's landing with the pitch, see what's landing in the marketplace. And it's much easier to channel and amplify a desire that's already there in the marketplace, right? Like, back pain, it exists, a lot of people have it, we amplify it and we speak to it, rather than inventing a desire, which is just, there's a cool idea, there's a cool product, and like, you're almost like forcing a desire to happen that's not already a problem for hundreds of thousands of people, right? You guys follow that?
Yeah.
Cool. And the main way to think about this is, we need to generate cash because that's the only thing that allows you to stay in business. Okay, if you don't generate cash, you can't continue doing what you want to do. That's just simple math of doing business. Okay, clear on this?
Yes.
All right, phase 2 is called the client. Oh my God. I was hoping for a whiteboard. I haven't used chalk in forever. Client conveyor belt. All right, and this is essentially from like 20-ish to 50-ish thousand per month. All right, 20 to 50,000 per month client conveyor belt phase 2. And this is based around dialing in the work that we've done around the triple S formula. Anybody can call out the 3?
Specific
Just one of them.
person, client of the
Specific person. Thank God. Okay.
offer.
Someone's watched one video. Anybody else? Triple S one.
Solvable.
Person,
Oh
problem.
no.
You're just making shit up.
Fired.
Sorry, what's the question?
The triple S formula.
What
All right, Congress will give you the answer.
Sophisticated.
We got specific problem, specific person, and specific method or specific way. All right. Man, y'all did not watch any of the videos. No, just kidding.
That's only one S.
Triple S.
That's right.
Specific.
So we
Okay.
Problem, person.
Specific problem, specific person, specific way. And essentially, when you dial that in with your communication, it allows you to have the same sort of person with the same sort of problem, and you're able to do the sales call in the same way pretty much every time, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Right? Which makes it very easy to take yourself out of sales. Okay?
Right.
That's the only thing that does it, is when you get the triple S formula dialed in, then you're just going to get the same sort of person, i.e. y'all in my offer, right? Coaches, course creators, retreat leaders, people who lead mentorship programs and want to charge at least $1,000 or more, that's all y'all. Who have the same sort of problems, all y'all. And solving that problem the same way, all y'all. Okay? And really in this phase, there's only 2 things to do. Generate sales calls, do sales calls. Okay. And then obviously you're gonna work hands-on with the clients that you have and try to get them good results. But the biggest mistakes really here is not iterating your communication enough until you really feel like every point's hitting. Every point's hitting. You got the right person, you got the right problem, you got the right method, and you're communicating it with excellence. You have to be able to scientifically iterate. Another big issue is just being willing to put in the hard work of generating calls when you don't have much cash. Okay? Because when you don't have much cash, you can't spend a ton on advertising, and so you have to just get in the weeds and just make it happen and get at least 8-10 calls per week on the calendar. That's another huge mistake people don't put in the work for. Another big mistake is starting to get distracted here with great, I should make my social media really cute, I should make my website really cute. Basically anything that's not doing sales calls and generating sales calls. Kind of boring, it's just the reality. I'll take questions after I'm through this. And then the last one I'll mention is thinking that your product has to be perfect here. It's actually just not possible, because how do you get your product perfect? By having a lot of clients go through your process and seeing what works, doesn't work, where they get tripped up, where they get confused. I'm going to do a whole talk on that on day after tomorrow, and talk about fulfillment funnels. But that's a huge thing. People are like, oh, my product isn't there yet. It's there's no way to get your product there because you haven't had 20, 50, 100 people go through your thing. So how are you going to get it better? You can't. Okay? Everyone cool on this? Awesome. Phase 3 is called truly scalable delivery. Okay? Truly scalable delivery. Okay? And this is essentially from the 50 to 100K a month range. All right? And essentially at this point, you have a great offer that's validated, right? You can sell it to strangers, and you have a conveyor belt marketing system. That's getting the right people into calls, and you can handle the sales calls pretty much the same way. Now, what's going to begin to break is your delivery of your product, right? Because you're getting a bunch of people in, and you're going to be the only one there to deliver it, and you have to make it a truly scalable delivery, right? And so you have to begin to initiate the process of removing yourself from the delivery of your own product, right? If you truly want to help more people, sounds weird. We're all probably like obsessed with like real deep intimacy and one-on-ones and all that, but essentially here there's a few key points. You have to move one-to-one solutions into one-to-many solutions, okay? That's just a reality. And if you think, oh, well, they're not going to get as deep as a thing, compared to if they just did one-on-one, well, you just need to do it better. Better education content, better group calls, better materials for them to get the success. Another belief that has to break here is that you're the best at what you do. When really, like, there are other people who are great also at similar things that you do, and they're willing to help you deliver your thing, right? So this is where a client success manager could come into your team. We'll talk about that later. This is also where you have to really have a structured client journey that's like really mapped out, and you know where all your clients are at all times. And then have a really good onboarding process, because at least the onboarding process you can hand that off, right? Someone would say, here's the course materials, here's the expectations, what are your goals? Like, guide somebody to just enter the process and take that off your plate. And then also here, what begins to become really cool in this range is you can begin to generate a lot of revenue from a back-end offer, which means you're selling people into your program, but now, like, some of them are starting to graduate, right? What do we do with those people? Well, we sell them again into continued support, right? Because the reality is, and we'll talk about this a lot more in 2 days from now, like, they're not going to get the ultimate aspirational result from just 3 months or 4 months with you, right? They're going to get like an initial breakthrough, maybe a few, but like, where would you go if you spend another year with them, or another 3, or another 5 years with your people, right? Would they be further along or not further along, right? So this is where that starts to become a lot more relevant and really cool. Cool if I erase this?
Yes.
Awesome. You guys with me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Can I add something to the last phase?
After.
Okay.
Okay. Phase 4 is very similar to phase 3, but it's removing yourself from sales. Okay? And this is generally at the same mark. We'll just say like around 70K per month. Around that area. Same area as the client success coach stuff. The truly scalable delivery. So very similar to the previous phase, now like doing all the appointment setting and all the sales yourself becomes the bottleneck to more people getting help, right? Because if you're just on sales calls all day, it means you can't actually be facing the clients, okay? So, yeah, essentially, I'll just keep this short, but you need to have enough lead gen opportunity for a setter or for a salesperson to actually be successful in this role, right? If you just have like a few calls a week, nobody's gonna want to sell for you, right? Like they need to be able to make 5, 10, 15,000 a month in order to be able to sell for you, okay? So that's why we're going in phases here, right? Some people are just get me out of sales, and they're like at like 10K per month. It's like you don't have enough opportunity for an even like baseline competent person for you to pay them and hire them, right? And that's like the real challenge with phases 1 and 2 is you have to do everything yourself because you don't even have money to hire the right people to perform at a high level so that you can make your product the best it can be.
And even if you did, you wouldn't know how to train them because you don't know yourself.
Yeah, another big problem, right? Yeah. Phase 5, almost there, is, I'm not going to write the whole title, but it's becoming a master manager Manager. Ugh. This is where, ironically, we start to build out a corporate structure. Similar like corporate structure. Like, I just want to have a business so I can have time freedom. Interestingly enough, like, you only get it when you get here. Weirdly enough, right? Because before this, you're doing everything. Right? Maybe you have one or two helpers, but you're not really an owner with like a lifestyle business. Right? You can like, no doubt, you can like have like a 10, 20, 30 a month business and like optimize for time freedom, but you can't really be an owner and just like have your business generating cash for you on autopilot without you doing every part yourself. You guys get that? This was like something I heard that I also got depressed by and excited by. Because they're like, yeah, until you're really at like 200, 300 grand a month, you can't really like have your time freedom truly in your business. So this presentation is kind of meant to like depress you and inspire you at the same time. If you haven't, thank you. I find when I put myself, just on that note, Steph, like I find when I put myself in a room with people just way further ahead than me, it depresses me, but it also like just motivates me. I'm like, okay, like it's not that Yamuna's like so much more genius, just like a little more genius, no, just kidding. It's not like Yamuna's like so mind-blowing or anything. Like you guys can do this. You guys can do this. It's just stepwise stuff. Shira's, what's that, Shira?
I'm taking it in.
Take it in. Shira hired her first team member and she didn't even think it was possible. Okay?
Yeah, actually I was just Shira. Is that thunder? Yeah.
I think so.
Thunder!
That's right. That's Shira's thunder.
Sharing, I think with Alex earlier that on the first CBM retreat in September of 2023, I'll like never forget, Lisa had a setter and there was only 6 of us.
Yeah.
And I was sitting on the floor and I was like sharing my problems and like my like how distraught I was, and you were like, you need to hire a setter. And I was like, I can never hire a setter. I was like really dead set on never hiring a setter.
Yeah.
And then it did take me 6 months to break the bubble.
Yeah.
And so I hired a
That's
setter.
you and Lisa. Y'all take like 6 months lag behind what I say. But it's great. Y'all there.
What's a setter?
I really
Yeah,
couldn't
it's
have done it at that moment.
Yeah.
Someone who sets calls for you instead of
Yeah.
being inside.
So this stage is really from like 150-ish a month all the way up to like 400K a month. All right. That's $5 million a year.
Wow.
And basically, you have a validated product, you have a scalable delivery system, you have a client conveyor belt, you have either partially or fully removed yourself from sales, setting, and client success. And now your job is to become the master manager, where you take all your team members from really like 40, 50% potential to like 80, 90% of their potential. You just make them way better. You treat them as if they were clients that hire you, right? And that's a big lesson I'll share later.
Who are
So
you
this-
treating like that? Your
Is it?
employee? Did you say you're treating your employees like that?
Yeah, so this is where you start to have like powerful meetings, one-on-ones with all your team, like really pouring into them, leadership, lots of like really boring quality control, like watching an onboarding call with the client success coach and like, did you hit all the boxes, you know, like cool, you know, and setters and like looking at all their DMs that they're setting, like looking at all the sales people's calls, like it's not that exciting. It's like making sure the basics are done. Yeah. So that then it becomes like this reliable engine that is running, okay? And there's a huge payoff to that, obviously, because now you take like the collective, like, you know, 3, 4, 5 people working full time, which is whatever, 200 hours a week, and you're managing that in 10 hours a week. So now your business has the output of 210 work hours per week, or more than that because yourself also, right? So we'll just say 240 hours a week versus 40, right? So what begins to happen? You actually become the minority of the energy that's being put into your business. Right, pretty cool. And then phase 6, last one, is, and it's not the last one, it's just the last one I can speak to, is building your leadership team. Okay? And this is really like from, I'd say like probably 300-ish up, all the way to $1 million a month. Okay, that's a $12 million a year business. So this is where we're at right now in our company. Is really mastering these two things. And basically, you're getting out of doing this by making managers, right? So you're taking your best client success people, your best setter people, your best sales people, and pushing them so they can manage people under them, right? And so now you're not even doing all that quality control, kind of boring stuff, but you're paying people. And if you really learn how to manage well in stage 5, then you can just transfer that to your team. And they can just crush it. And then you just manage a few leaders, really, and that's it, right? And so at this point, this is where something like a sales manager comes into play, a client success director comes into play, a chief of operations, CFO, like a lot of like higher level stuff where people are making multiple 6 figures working for you, right? Kind of wild. I didn't ever anticipate I could ever do any of this stuff. Seriously, like no idea. I was making like $3,000 when I hired my first coach, and my like mind she's like, yeah. She's like, I wasn't ready for you then. I'm ready for you now. And when I hired my first coach, like my mind-blowing goal was $14,000 a month, and I thought that was so like just not even attainable. I was like just putting it out there, like, whew. And now we're down here at this stage 6. Everyone, thank you.
Yeah.
And kind of not super relevant, but at this stage, your marketing will need a serious help because you're spending so much on marketing that the creatives get burned out really quickly. Whereas when you're spending a lot less, you can have like one ad just go for a long time. But when you're spending like $80,000, $100,000 plus dollars per month on ads, then you need to constantly be making ads essentially.
Wow.
So
Sorry, are all these numbers revenue or?
that's per month revenue.
So
Is that
300K includes your ad budget, kind of? Yeah.
This is the money in.
Uh-huh.
that's
So we're not
That's
talking about
not
money.
sales, that's actual money in.
Yeah, money in. Yeah.
related question?
Yeah.
So there's, depending on where our price point is, that's going to change how many clients we're getting and how many sales calls. Can we
Yeah.
like level set across how many people that we're talking about bringing in? Do you know what I mean? Well, so I was trying to do the math with like
Not trying to do the math with your
30K.
current
Like
offer.
if I look at, no. I mean even like 30K a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's going to be however many.
Yeah.
10 sales calls. If I'm closing 25%, then that's 40 sales calls. So that's 40 hours. How many, like, you see what I'm saying? There's,
Yeah, you can reverse engineer your goal.
right, but if we're going up to removing ourselves from sales at 70K a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are all rough estimates, right? Like all this highly depends on the price of your offer, so many things. It's just a rough guideline.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
have like 170K offer.
That's right.
Just sell it.
People are like, how do I make 50K a month? I'm like, well, you could sell one 50K thing and call it
Yeah.
a day. You could sell two 25K things. You could sell 5 10K things. Big 10 5K things. Right? Any questions on this before I move forward? There's going to be a ton, but yeah.
Just in general, I would just say cost of sales or like money going out to
Yeah.
support all of that. Do you notice like a kind of pretty steady percentage throughout all these phases?
We
Or is it
have.
dramatic? Yeah.
Yeah, well, the great thing about y'all's business is it can be one of the most profitable businesses, like, on the planet. Like, other than, like, software and some other stuff, you can have, like, 60% plus profit margins on your sort of business, like, for a long time, which is really healthy and really great. So, does that answer your question? Like, yeah.
So you could take 60% of those numbers out until like phase 4 or phase 5?
Yeah, you could pay yourself 60% of these numbers.
The whole way, I hear.
The whole way.
The whole way.
And there's gonna be times, there's gonna be dips, there's gonna be times where you wanna spend way more on marketing and like see new campaigns win. And there's gonna be times where like you don't take profit because you're building out the next base to build upon, right? Like if you only have this base, then you can only build this high. But when you put more money into building the base, like hiring a person costs money, testing out new ad campaign, building out new funnels, like doing a bunch of stuff, it widens your base. And that costs money. So sometimes it's kind of painful. You decide to not take profit now so that you can actually, and I had to do that for like a lot of this phase. I had to do that like where I would just pay my expenses to live, even sometimes at this level of revenue. Like I would just pay myself like $5,000 out of $70,000. Sometimes, right? Not all the time. But it was to establish the next base so that I could just build way higher. And I was always focused on like slow but steady and not at the expense of like everything crashing and burning. And not at the expense of like the client experience just like imploding and all the clients are like, yeah.
So I noticed that you didn't talk about like product development as any part of this, and so
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like in your mind, is the relative prioritization of like getting advertising and like the sales funnel set up just like way higher than just getting awesome product? Or how do you think about that?
I'll talk about product next. I'm gonna do a whole product ladder. Product is very important, right? It's the backbone of your entire business. But in the beginning, like all people are buying is the communication that you're giving them on the call.
Yep.
And the product can only be like 20% of its potential when you're like in those first initial phases, just because like you have to wear every single hat. And when you wear every single hat, it means that you can't possibly be putting a ton of energy into the product. And that's just necessary to survive as a business owner. And also, like I was sharing, when you don't have dozens and dozens and dozens of people going through that can tell you what's wrong, because like we'll talk about this in 2 days, but the best way to know what's effed up is just ask your people.
Yeah.
Right? They'll tell you. Because sometimes I'm like, man, our product's so great. And then we just ask people and they tell us where all the problems are. And that's what every good business owner does. Like Jeff Bezos, he just would look at tens of thousands of support tickets and then they would categorize them based on like the issues people were having, and then they would just crush the biggest category first so that they could just eliminate that complaint down to zero. But they had to get so many people buying, to get so many complaints, to get so much better at making the product better. Or else you can't just imagine a product that's going to be perfect and that people engage with exactly how you want. Because that's also a big difference. Is there's a big difference between your product and how people experience your product.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I ask about recruiting too?
About what?
Recruiting too. Like, were there any techniques
Yeah.
that you found in building a team? Like,
Yeah. I'll talk about both of those things, and if you still have a question around them, we can cover them. Yeah. Anybody else just on this? Yeah, Drew?
When you do a survey, what percentage of people will respond to it?
Pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty high. I incentivize baked cookies, which I haven't delivered on.
I'm still waiting on my mini cookies. I thought they might show up.
I didn't say a timeline in which they'd be delivered. So no one could say I didn't keep my promise, but
I really was like, maybe they're gonna shoot up at the retreat.
that's how people mentioning cookies in the oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my god, the looks are getting serious. I'm feeling cornered for cookies. Like, my sugar levels are low.
You can fuck with a lot of
Potatoes and
things, but
corn.
promised cookies are sacred.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Anything else on this ladder or these phases? Cool. Cool if I raise?
I actually do have a question, but you can erase. I was just wondering if we pivot, does that mean that we start at the beginning of the ladder, or does that mean that
Kind of.
kind of?
But how I see it, and I'll talk about this because I thought something really useful would just be to share the trillion mistakes I've made with you guys, and to just bask in the glory.
Everything you did wrong.
It's mistakes, yeah. The thing is, like, the product that you end up building is yourself, even if you lose it all. Like, whatever phase you got up to, you retain that skill set forever.
Right.
So even if I just like turned off all my ads, fired everyone, like I'm like, here you go, here's all your money back, I could do it again tomorrow and just do a different offer and just make it as successful. And that's really cool, right? When people talk about like income security, it's not like something magic that's like, oh, X amount of sales will make me secure. It's like X amount of skills and systems and knowledge and beliefs will make you secure, because that's an asset that can never be taken away. Whereas if you rely on some like gimmick or tactic, that gimmick or tactic or like Instagram ads like could just go away. Like tomorrow if they delete Instagram ads, what are you gonna do? Tomorrow if they delete the internet, what are you gonna do? Do you have the skill sets? Right?
If the internet's gone, I'm not working anymore.
I'd find a community.
I'm definitely gonna eat off the land.
Alright, we'll get into that later. That's the last one. It's called Transcending It All. Having it all. That's stage 7. It's after you become a high level leadership team. You just say F it all and you just go to Guatemala.
The whole point of this was just to go to Guatemala.
Yeah, you could have gone to Guatemala in the first place, but you tricked yourself. Okay? You made an 8-figure business. That's right. Okay, let's talk about product ladder. Cool?
Yes.
Let's take a deep breath. Exhale. So I'm just gonna give you what I did, just so y'all can like see how it is a ladder. I started with $40 workshops. I started with free workshops. Then I started with $40 workshops about health and Ayurveda. And then I got trained in bodywork, did a ton of free bodywork on people, got great results. And then people were like, here's $100. I was like, cool. Then I got really good at bodywork, so I started charging $150, $200, $300 for bodywork, right? So premium service provider for one-off things, right? It went from like one-off commodity to premium service. And then the biggest jump was taking from that $200, $300 price point to my first $1,000 price point, which was an Ayurveda, a 6-week online Ayurveda training. And that jump was like the scariest out of this whole damn ladder, right? Believe it or not, it's like, wow, like that seems intense, like 150 grand to 500 grand, like that was less intense for me than just making the decision to like charge $1,000, believe it or not. And so like going from lower ticket to high ticket, I'll just speak on that real quick. Like I think when I reflect on it, like what allowed it to be successful was one, I was doing a 100-day challenge on Instagram, if you guys are familiar with that, like just posting every day, just valuable content, just from my readings, from Ayurveda, from living as a monk. And I didn't ever ask anything of my audience. I would just post value every day for 100 days. So I had just done that before the training, before I launched my first high ticket. I also kept doing those $40 workshops and free workshops. And I would just slam those out of the park and get really good at like 2-3 workshops and then pitch people on the $1,000 thing right at the end, right? So I didn't run any ads when I went from $3K a month to the next month making like 24 grand a month. So that was the jump, 3 to 24. No ads, no idea, any skills in sales, no appointment setting process, nothing.
Sorry, and the 6-week program was one-on-one or?
It was a group program that also had some one-on-ones. Yeah, and it was just like all day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was like very intensive for 6 weeks straight. And I like didn't know how to sustain my energy during that, but I learned. I think another thing that made it successful was having like dozens or hundreds of like consults and body work already under my belt, so I deposited goodwill. Like people had a good experience of my work. And then a massive level of like cold and warm outreach. And what was strange, like even I think Patrick, you have one of my voice notes from like many years ago. So he played it back. I didn't even know that I cold DM'd him.
That's awesome.
Right? And he like played it back and it was like, hey, my name's Yamuna, I just want to reach out, hear more about your vision for life, for your health, for your spiritual connection. And it's like, I'd love to share about some things that I'm doing and like we can get together, talk about your vision. Like that was literally the voice note, like 40 times a day for every day. And it wasn't even about, there was no freebie mentioned, no product mentioned. Like people didn't even have an idea it was like potentially going to be a sales call. Because I had no effing idea what I was doing, to be honest. I was just like inviting people to like hear about them, and if I felt like what I was hearing I could help them with, I was like, cool, want to hear like what I've been up to and like my product? And they're like, yeah. And then I just sold my whole program out like that. So that's all I did was like 30, 40 voice notes over Instagram to complete strangers every day, and sold like 22 slots into my first high ticket program at 1,000 to 1,500 each.
Were they already following you or?
A few of them, but other ones they were just complete strangers. Some with no profile picture, no followers, just no discrimination, just message them. Right? So like at that point I was having like 6, 7, 8 sales calls a day with zero skill set in sales. And like they would turn into like therapy sessions and be like, Leela's like, you've been on the phone for like 90 minutes, like 2 hours, you know, and I just had no idea what I was doing. Just would try to chat, try to tell someone about my thing, and then people would buy it. Because when you have that much opportunity, you're bound to convert it. So I think just the massive amount of opportunity that I just drilled away at, like it was impossible for me to not win just because there was so much, like if you had 7 calls a day, would you not make a few sales a week?
Right.
Probably, right? So from
So
there,
I got a question about you do 2 to 3 workshops and then pitch the high ticket at the end of the workshops?
Mhm.
And were people buying from that, or were you pitching
Not
a sales
really.
call?
I would get them into a call. I would just send my booking link and then book a call. I would just give them like a 5-minute rundown. Like, we're going to do a marmot training, and it's going to be in LA, and we're going to do this and that, and I'm going to cook meals, and it's going to be awesome people. And like, just kind of like a 5-minute rundown. They're like, yeah, that sounds great. And I'd just be like, awesome, want to talk more about it? And then I'll just send the booking link, and like out of 20 people in the workshop, I'd always get like at least 3. So I also found that like instead of charging $40, just make it free. I'll get like double, triple the amount of people, and it's not worth like, oh, I'm not valuing my time. Like that mentality has got to go, because it's like, cool, you could get 10 people for $40 and make $400, and like maybe one of them will buy your $2,000 thing. Great, you made $2,400. Versus making it free, you have 40 people come and 3 of them buy the high ticket. Now you just made $6,000 or whatever. Right? So I had to kind of get over myself, because I struggled with like, I don't want to give for free, but it just was like really valuable. And then people were like, yes, like this was such a great experience. I want whatever's next. So I think that was really pivotal for me, because I didn't really ask for anything. I was just like, come, I'll teach you. Then I went to like, I just kept increasing the prices of the training, like $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and then I had my first one-on-one business coaching client for $1,200. And that was like mind-blowing, because I didn't really just have like a coaching program that had no education. And so I feel like, again, there was a belief shift, because I felt like I put a lot of my value into just the information, and like like justifying what I was charging based on the sheer volume of education content and like PDFs and like the amount of study I had to do for it. And now it was just me on a call. And so actually that felt very confronting, even though I had already charged $3,000. And then I did $3,000 business coaching, group business coaching, and then I sold my first $7,000 private retreat for Ayurveda at the same time. And Ananda was there. Where's Ananda?
Right.
Ananda was at my house when I made that $7,000 sale.
Oh, nice.
And I like literally was just mind blown. I was like, and the guy on the call was like, if the experience for the 3 days is gonna be anything like the last hour that I've had with you, he said the $7,000 is a bargain.
Wow.
And I was just like, excuse me?
Do you want to try?
I was like, excuse me? I was like, I could do more if you like.
Yeah.
And so then like, as soon as I heard that's a bargain, I was like, shit. I was like, okay, I can do more than this. I didn't know that. So that blasted open a door for me. And then I think I did like a 5K group business coaching, and then kept going up like 7K, 9,500, 11K, 14K, 20K, and then one-on-ones for 25K, and then now the mastermind for 36. And so the main point I wanted to get across was like, it wasn't like I just went from 0 to like, let me charge $36,000. It was like so much that had to go into it. And the amount I charged always reflected the level of belief that I had about myself, the skills that I had developed and put time into, and the levels of self-investment, right? How can I expect someone to pay something I've never paid myself? So at this point, you know, our company has spent at least $1 million on coaches, ads, courses, masterminds, mentorships, as well as just tens of thousands of hours of like studying and delivering. That was my product ladder. Any questions on that? Like, we can just talk about product. I'm happy to answer any questions or just brainstorm.
So when you moved from Ayurveda to business coaching, did a part of you want to stay with Ayurveda? How would you explore the topic of adding, sort of similar, like adding multiple courses? Here's a course for this thing, here's a course for this thing. It sounds like you were just all in on one.
I wasn't.
Really?
That was a big struggle for me, actually, was like, I think I was maxing out at like 30, 40K-ish a month, and it was just me. And I was like, man, why can't I break through this? And it was because I had a foot in two different boats. And I was like, I was very like emotionally attached to the Ayurveda because it was very like meaningful work. Like, you know, it's a simple product. Like, people are doing body work. You came to a training. So it's just like people crying, breaking down, like having amazing healing experiences. And like that emotionally was very satisfying for me to see. And then I was also seeing like my first like little groups of business coaching with the product for my first group business coaching was just, I think like 1 or 2 one-on-ones with me, and then a call every other week, and you had to submit a sales call or you're kicked out of the program. And that was it. We just reviewed a sales call every other week, and I charged like $3,000, and people got insane results with that. There's no education, no CSMs, no Slack, no school, no community. It was just 1 or 2 one-on-ones, and then a call every other week with the group. And I had people go from like $2,000 a month to like 30, 40 grand a month, like just with that. And part of it is like, there wasn't as much like tactics to lean on, so they just had to take massive action, which was really cool. Because I just was telling them how I take massive action, and then they just
You are the product.
Yeah, just like trying to show them what's possible. Because I didn't know what was possible just like a little bit earlier. But I only started coaching people in business after I had already sold out a ton of Ayurveda retreats, like again and again and again and again. So it wasn't like I was like, cool, I made 1 high ticket sale, let me be a business coach, which I see happen all the time. Like, you haven't even done the thing that you're trying to teach your clients to do. And how are you going to believe in it if you haven't done that, right? So yeah, like that kept me stuck for a while. Was just like, I was like, I'm really attached to this original thing, but I also see like this thing blasting off, and then I just had to I just did an experiment where I was like, what if I just put all my eggs in one basket for 6 months? Right? It doesn't have to be forever, but just 6 months, and then it just rocketed it up, and I was like, okay. And then I started to learn like opportunity vehicles, right? Like how much can I charge for Ayurveda training? I don't know, like 2, 3, 4, 5 grand maybe. How much can I charge for that other thing? So like people pay according to the problem that you're solving, the value of the problem that you're solving. So you solve more expensive problems, you can charge more. And that's when I started to learn about that. Because I was like, it would take like 5x the sales calls and infrastructure to get Ayurveda to like half the level where this company's at now. But it's not to say it's not possible. And at that point, I didn't have a lot of the knowledge I have now. So if I were to build like an Ayurveda company over again, I could bring it to the same level, for sure.
To the same level previously, or the same level you have now?
To the same level as now. Yeah, for sure. There would be a back-end offer, there'd be a year-long training, there'd be, 15K, 20K offers still. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely can speak to like giving, and I guess during COVID, I did a free live Instagram every day for half an hour. Same time every day, no matter, even if I slept at 7, every day, 8:30 to 9, all year.
Yeah.
And then I just announced I'm doing a workshop. I had 200 people signed up for like a $400 workshop.
For $400.
Yeah. But then my question is, what I taught them, like, how to make the money back.
Yeah.
In the workshop. So part of it was part of it's teaching people how to become a successful healer.
Yeah.
So they had to get 5 clients a week, ask for a $10 donation. And if they did the homework over the 8 weeks, then the course was like,
right. Yeah.
So my question is, like, I have this inner conflict between teaching, I'm a healer, for those of you who don't know, teaching the healing as my product versus teaching you how to make 30 grand a month as a healer.
So you want me to speak to that conflict?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, like with an education that's just purely about healing, you can't charge as much, but also like I feel the expectation is lower and you can deliver on it. When you're teaching someone how to go from like 0 to 30K a month, there's so many things that people have to learn. Like this product that I have is difficult to deliver on. It's like even with like adding more and like refining things and making way more support in group calls and like whatever, like it's challenging. And so you have to be ready for the challenges that you pick on the path. And like to get your business to any sort of level, like higher and higher down those phases, you have to be ready to face bigger and bigger challenges. And so at the same time, like you could have an Ayurveda thing or whatever and get it to $300,000 a month. That'd be like 100 new clients a month essentially. How are you gonna deliver on that? That still becomes very challenging. So you have to pick which battle you want to go for.
Yeah.
And then let's say like out of the 100 clients a month that you're signing up, like 10 of them are not really showing up and they cause drama within your community. But you have now 700 people in your community of Ayurveda, and now 10 people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like anything can happen.
Right.
And you have to just be ready, like, okay, if I want 300K a month benefits, I have to have 300K a month radical responsibility and challenges. And so people want the thing without wanting to change themselves all the time. And you guys probably experience that on sales calls. Like people want the thing without having to take radical responsibility to get the thing. And it just doesn't
I don't know what
work
you're
like
talking
that. He has no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, he said that. So I think no matter what, like the deeper you go, like the hairier the beast becomes,
Yeah.
but also the more equipped you become as a human to where like little fires that we have now, it's like, oh, well, we've already done that. Whereas in the beginning, like when you're in the first phase, little bumps feel very big. Because you don't have the spring-loaded suspension and all these things that like good structure and good training gives you. And so everything's emotional and dramatic. Right? Like someone asked me for a refund, like end of the, it becomes like 100x what it's supposed to be when you're just starting. But then the more and more you experience it, and like learn how to solve it, then it comes up again. It comes up less, first of all, because you solve the problem from happening, and then you're more equipped as a human to deal with it because you dealt with it before. So I don't know if that really answers your question at all. It's just a different value proposition, and when it comes to like the make money online, like it is saturated. And that being said, like you just have to have a really good delivery, and then you're competing with people who are just putting so much money into it. Like right now, like I'm a little fish in the pond and we're spending 70 grand a month on ads. And I'm a little fish in the make money online pond. Whereas the game that you guys are playing, there's very few big fish. Like if you want to have like a 300K a month Ayurveda thing, there's like almost no one doing it. And so once you get the steam, this momentum going down the phases, it becomes like a steamroller down the hill. And then you can just spend more than everyone else. You have a way bigger team than everyone else. There's 240 hours a week going into your Ayurveda, 500 hours a week going, 1,000 hours a week of labor going into your business, and it's just a steamroller in a market that no one is mastering business in the way you are. Like no one's executing on it. They're just like up here. They're like at phase 0, or like maybe phase 1 or 2.
It's true.
Because they're like the type that's not willing to go down. And so I feel like you guys have an opportunity that is very uncapitalized on, because very, very few people in your spaces are willing to go down the rabbit hole of the phases. And if you can do that, you can outspend everyone and just like dominate your market, which is insane. Huh?
That is
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah, sounds great.
Which is cool, obviously all the philosophy you guys have been, hearing with CBM is like, the more you do that, the more people get your stuff. And the better your stuff becomes, because the more money you have to make your stuff better. And the more you free yourself up from the minutia to actually make your thing better. And the more money you have to put into yourself to make yourself better. Right? So it's not just like money. It's like, make yourself better, make your product better, make the client experience better. Like that's what the marketplace rewards. And so when people criticize people going down this path as if it's unethical, it's like the market decides. The consumer with the dollar decides where the dollar goes. And so should we make less good products? Because then we'll just all have the same revenue and like there'll be no like critiquing each other. But like whoever makes the better product and better experience, they get rewarded by the marketplace. And so why would you want the marketplace to just have less quality options to solve the very real problems that they face in life? Right? So people criticize business as if it's like, you're just making money. But all the people who bought are the ones voting with their dollar again and again and again. And the only ones that go really big, like, are ones that people tell their friends about and that actually work. Right? You can't have a product go all the way down that doesn't work. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to wrap this up, you're saying that switch to conscious business mastery, you can charge so much more, and I think that all of us here, the incentive was just so easy because it's like, we'll get you to 10K,
Yeah.
14 down, 10
Yeah.
back. It, just like you were saying, Monty, it's a brainless choice.
Yeah.
But you're also saying with Ayurveda, I could easily build this business up the same.
Yeah.
So what would you charge for those Ayurveda courses? Would you charge
Yeah.
the same, or would there be a discrepancy?
Yeah.
I've
So
already built it all out.
we've already built it all out because
My notes.
whenever we have fires in the business, she's like, should we just burn it all down and start Ayurveda? And I'm like, no. This is how big things are built. Like sometimes I'm like that, and sometimes she's the one soothing me. How would I do it? I would, well, am I starting from like very little skill, or am I like starting from me today?
From you today.
Yeah, so then I would make like a 1 year, 2 year track for Ayurveda stuff and include multiple in-person things, have like an Ayurveda foundations and an advanced thing and then a bodywork thing, and then charge like 18 grand or something like that for like almost like a tuition for the year, and have guest teachers that are really great, like, you know, from India, from other countries, like where a fair compensation would just be pretty low according to American standards, but they're like feel very good about the compensation. Have them be part of the delivery. You know, still have client success coaches. It wouldn't be as involved as CBM is now. There's no done for you part, tech and ads and all this stuff. So it's actually a lot less complex in that way. So there's trade-offs again, right? But yeah, that's how I'd make it. I would basically make the model I have now, which is a hybrid of in-person and online, and a longer span of time, like a year or 2 years. And I would just sell that.
And in terms of high-level promise
Yeah.
and deliverable, like how would that look like?
It would just be what it was before, which is exponentially increase your ability to heal yourself and others. Right?
And it's measured
And that's
by
really
how
cool.
people feel, actually.
Yeah, that's really cool, and it's something I've honestly wrestled with, is making a process-oriented guarantee, like Drew was talking about earlier, rather than a results-based guarantee, because naturally results follow from processes and skills.
Can you share more about that?
Yeah, so like, for instance, like, delivering on the, like, you know, we guarantee 10 to 20K a month, like, people just look at that, but they don't look at the conditions of, like, you have to master things in order to get the result, right? Like, in order to get the results that you have are due to the actions that you take. And the actions that you take are due to the skills and the beliefs that you hold, right? And so in the program, we start from beliefs and skills, but if you don't follow the stepwise ladder and actually master those things, right? Like, it's not gonna happen on accident. It's not a done for you, you're now making 10 to 20K. It's like, we give you everything that you need so that you can master the skills, so that you can achieve the result. But I've struggled like internally, like, do we just turn that? I feel solid about the guarantee, because anyone who's followed those conditions, which are pretty basic, has gotten the result, right? But I've struggled just like when people buy based on just the result, and not like, I have to just put in a ton of grueling work and crush it and learn all these skills and like challenge all these internal beliefs, then it becomes a challenge. So I've wrestled with that myself, like, okay, should I change that language? And yeah, so when I'm talking about the Ayurveda stuff, like just talking about mastery over a thing, like that is a great promise, like Drew was saying, like, I'll teach you how to become your own body worker in 20 minutes or less per day. But like now it's much clearer that it's up to you to master these skills so you can become your own body worker, and to the extent you apply it, the high level promise is valid, right? Rather than him saying like, you'll be healed in 90 days guaranteed, which he could probably guarantee because the stuff is really dope, but it just makes a different mindset for the person coming in.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's something like, just to be honest, like that I've thought about a lot.
So is your guarantee still
It's still the
result-based?
same. Yeah, it's still results based. But within the conditions, which you have to make very apparent, the conditions are all process.
Yeah.
And when you're onboarded, like that onboarding material is so intense. It's like, you will fail if you do this. Like, you will fail if you don't show up in this way. So like, I try to make it as explicit as possible of like, if you don't do these things, you won't get the result. And yet it's still like leading a horse to water and they don't drink sometimes. And that, like, I'd much rather the horse drink. Like, truly. I have so much more fun when people follow, when people break through, when people understand there's gonna be challenges and they just keep going and realize that like, if this shit was easy, like everyone would be there already. And like, I try to make it as accessible as possible. So yeah, it's still the same year T. And the conditions are very process oriented. The onboarding is very a reminder of that. The content is a reminder of that. The whole way we lead you through it is a reminder of that. So, yeah.
I personally think that like the framing of a school is very nice because it kind of balances both. Say you're like learning a trade, right? If you're learning Ayurveda, you're learning a professional trade. And so pretty much not everyone who comes into, let's say, a 2-year Ayurveda program wants to be a practitioner, but it's pretty likely. So in a way, it's still a financial incentive for them, right? It's still like, oh, I want to make this my work. I will learn how to transform this into my work. But at the same time, it's like pure education. And so the school or like aspect of it kind of balances both. And so that's how we would do it if we were to do it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you guys invested a lot in like self-improvement.
Yeah.
Can you share like which of those investments you found have like the highest ROI?
Highest ROI?
Yeah.
I mean, just very literally, like, we've spent 700 grand-ish of that on ads. And that's all been at an 8x plus return.
Yeah. I guess I meant more like just upskilling yourself or like educating yourself.
Yeah. I think out of all of them, the very first coach I hired, which, like, it was mainly energetics of sales that they were teaching. It was the first, like, kind of business coaching I modeled after her. Which was just like a sales call review every other week.
Cool.
That's all I got. But I think just the act of betting on myself and basically spending way more than I even had in savings and like having to make it work and then having to take massive action and like break all these beliefs, that like, that's not like something you can just have in like a 30-minute video. That's like very intense betting on yourself. And when I like made it on this other side, it was just like I couldn't undo what I knew about what I was capable of. And so I don't know if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like I couldn't undo what I knew about myself when it came to my capacity and what I was able to achieve. I couldn't go back to like the 3K a month thing. And so then that became a it just became a feedback loop of like, let me invest more in me. And like, I started to make money and I like very cutely had like a little bit of money. And I asked like a mentor of mine that's like a wealth manager and whatever. I was like, oh, I have, like whatever, 20 grand now, like how should I invest my big earnings? And he was like, just spend more money on making yourself better. And I was like, cool. So like when it came to that, what you were talking about, and I was mentioning how I was making like 70 grand a month and like hardly taking any home, it's because I just kept purchasing things and kept testing ads and kept spending so I could make myself the product that knew how to do the things and that would never be stripped away. And that's really the financial freedom. It wasn't like, great, now I have 70 grand, I'm financially free. It's like, great, now I have this skill stack and belief stack that will be very hard for me to lose forever with, right? Do you have something? Or share it? No? Yeah?
What is do you have any advice for getting through phase one? Not just like book sales calls, but like dealing with all the shit of getting to the point where you're actually booking the sales calls?
Yeah, I think a lot of our training obviously goes through many of those things, but I really think the main thing is like just deciding to be the person that's already done it. That was for me. I can just speak to myself, right? I can't say what you should do, but I think for me, like deciding to be the person who's already done it. What would that person do? How would that person think? And what actions would that person take consistently? Like, would the 10K a month me like grovel after I send like 10 messages and nobody replies? Hell no. They would just send more. Right? And so even though like I would revert to groveling, I would remind myself of that frame. So it's not that I like didn't grovel. I definitely groveled and like complained and like, meanwhile, like this happened, like that. And like people are even annoyed at like me reaching out to them, like people I knew because I didn't even know how to do it in a good way. So I was just like taking a ton of messy action. Like some people were like, don't message me, bro, like whatever. And I was like, I'm a horrible person. And, like, everything was confronting at every step, you know, and like I had to just be like, okay, I can keep going. Like, and like the few clients I had were getting such awesome results that I was like, if I place this minor inconvenience of this emotional turmoil over the impact I'm having on others, how much do I truly want what I say I want in my business? Like, if I'm not willing to feel a little uncomfortable and like potentially be judged by others, or be a little frustrated, or like have a bunch of people no-show on a call, like, and like that's the price that like now my whole mission is not worth it, do I actually deserve 10K a month or 20K a month or whatever I say I want? And I'm not saying that for you guys, it was just how I related with me, and it wasn't in a self-deprecating way, it was actually very uplifting for me to think that way. Because I was just like, yeah, like, no. Like, the you that's doing 20 grand a month, like, wouldn't have that hold you back. Like, the healing is too important than like one guy out of 427 dudes being like, don't bother me, you know? Like, my stuff's way more valuable than me just avoiding that discomfort. You guys get what I mean?
Yes.
Julie, I don't know if that speaks to your thing, but I really think it's like a lot of emotional stuff for people. It's identity work.
Yeah.
It's how you see yourself. Like, I had to ask myself, like, do I trust myself with the success? Like, let's say I made 14 grand, which was the goal I set with my coach. I'm like, wow, would I really like trust myself with that? And I was like, yeah, I would. I was like, man, this is really, like, money is just an amplification of the character that I already have. And there's a lot of goodness that wants to come out.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course I trust me. So I think a lot of people, like, when they talk about imposter syndrome, it's the same thing happening. There's like a bigger version of them that they're actually scared of. They're not used to being the bigger version of themselves. And so they just say, oh, imposter syndrome. Oh, I don't want to be someone I'm not. But most people that say imposter syndrome aren't trying to be something that they're not. Like, who are you trying to be? I'm like, oh, I'm not trying to be anyone. Like, okay, so how's an imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
And it's just like, they're not used to living in the bigger version of themselves that already exists in an authentic state somewhere in their psyche, which brought them to pay for CBN, which brought them to even dream about the dream. If the dream wasn't possible, it wouldn't have appeared, because you can only see things that the roadmap is actually possible for, right? Especially things that persist, right? Like, someone had to think about this damn computer existing before a computer existed. And when Bill Gates, like, I'm not going to talk about Bill Gates, but when Bill Gates said the mission of Microsoft is to have a computer in every room, computers were the size of multiple rooms. And everyone's just like, you are literally insane. But he had a vision, and he just kept working at something seemingly impossible. But because he had an obsessive vision, everything was just go back to that obsessive vision. And you look at any good founder, they're obsessed. They're obsessed with this ideal, this radical ideal. And that's what makes it worth doing and fun. So that's why I like business a lot. It's just like obsession. Can take a deep breath. See some people like eyes glazing over, like eyes are open, but they're actually asleep. Yeah.
Just kind of like hearing all this, I'm just kind of like thinking about where I'm at, and I think, you know, like the phase one is like getting the 10 strangers to buy my product, and like, so I have like 12 people that have come through like throughout the time, but I think I'm like, I feel what it's like to have these many people and doing all of it, and I think I'm almost like, I don't know, like almost like contracting just a bit, because I'm like, oh, like, do I trust myself to have more people? Because I want everybody to have a great experience, but I'm doing it all, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm just sharing my moment with you and my thoughts, but yeah, like, I guess I'm going to keep doing it, obviously, like, that's what I'm here to do, but just acknowledging that I'm like having this moment of like, wait, like, I'm kind of at what I feel like is capacity to really give these people what they want and keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, totally. I can relate with that, and like I was sharing, like at least in my heart, I've always wanted to grow, but not at the expense of the client experience. And the thing is, it's like, just ask yourself, like, have you reached the pinnacle of delivering on your product? Has your product reached like the maximum potential it'll ever reach in terms of quality, clarity, ease of consumption, level of leadership, how you move people through your thing, how much support there is, like, is it at its pinnacle? Right? Like, nowhere near its pinnacle.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just like I was sharing in like whatever phase 2 or phase 3, right? Like the actual scalable, truly scalable delivery, where you make more one-to-many solutions, where the level of leadership that you give is actually higher. So like, for instance, like there's so many things we've had to do around that, right? Like automating education and personalizing transformation. It's always a principle I've shared. You automate the things that you have to tell everybody so that you don't have to tell everybody anymore, right? So what are the things? Okay, the first step of getting your nutrition right is blah, 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 getting your blood work and blah. You can make a damn video and you never have to say it again.
Yeah.
You still have to say it, believe me. But you have to say it less. I'm like, did you watch the video? No.
Sorry, you said automate education in the second?
Automate education and personalized transformation. Because actually when you make really good educational content, then in your one-on-ones and in your group you can go much deeper because you don't have to just cover the basics. You don't have to just share the fundamentals again. It's like you have the foundation. Now when you come in, it's just about customizing it to your personal experience. Instead of having to try to do both in one session and then do it again and again and again with so many people. That's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So you have to think better. How do people get better results? And I'm going to talk about it in a whole other class. How to
Yeah, that's cool. I like that already. Thank you.
Whoever's doubting that they can do this, you can fully do this.
Yeah.
You would not be in this room, as we said, unless this is a path that is currently opening for you.
Absolutely.
Like informed pessimism.
Informed pessimism, it's a good state to be in. because the pessimism means that you are in touch with the reality of the things that must be conquered. But you can look back at the things you used to be pessimistic about that now you have mastery over, and that's proof that you can then keep, you can grow, right? You've grown and you continue to grow and you've learned and you continue to learn.
Hey, can I
so
share?
You can continue.
Do you mind if I share something briefly? I
Let
don't
me
have
take
to.
a stock of everybody real quick.
Okay.
How you guys feeling? I had one more thing, which was the hiring ladder.
I think that's a whole nother.
I'm gonna ask everybody else later because she always gives me her opinion on my presentations. All like y'all who paid to be here. I love you so much. She's like helped me with this a ton, so we've spoken about it. She's like a massive part of my success. She's like always believed in me, always made my ideas better, always made the product better, always cared about all of you guys. She's had dreams about you guys. She's like, I need to remove myself from the Slack channels because I'm starting to have dreams about all of you. So she just started removing herself because she has a baby, like we have a baby. But she deeply cares about seeing all of you guys win too. And she's always been my biggest support. But how are all y'all feeling? Can you guys go, like, how much more time do you feel like you could spend in this setting?
Yeah, I could go more.
Raise your hand if you are completely done right now. Right.
Well, when you say it like that.
No, I don't have any emotional, like, please, just be honest. Raise your hand if you're, like, kind of feeling burnt out and fried. Raise your hand if, like, you could do, like, maybe 10 more minutes. 1, 2. Okay. Raise your hand if you could go, like, 20 more minutes.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you could go more than 20 minutes. Okay, interesting. So we'll do at least 10, we'll check in, and anybody who wants to not continue, we can like have like a graceful exit and I can say a little bit more.
Can we shake our buddies a little bit? Just
What is
one
it?
minute? Shake
Yeah,
it
let's
out.
just
That
stand
would
up.
actually work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just stretch your hands overhead. Jiggle break. Take a deep breath in. Let it sigh out. Let a deep breath in. Awesome. Let's kick it for at least 10 minutes, and whoever wants to end there, that's cool.
Can I
That's like
kick
to
it?
say a little
Yes, I
word.
can. Can I kick it?
That's right.
Yes, you can.
All right, so if we can all just quiet down just a little.
The
I'll wait for
Warriors?
you guys, just until you guys
The
quiet
Warriors?
down.
Yeah, fucking A.
What's this one
You guys
called?
ready?
Ready.
Okay. This is the hiring ladder. So we did the product ladder, and I showed how the products evolved. Now there's the hiring ladder. Now, in order to understand the hiring ladder, we have to understand a very basic concept of business called the theory of constraints. Raise your hand if you know what the theory of constraints is. Okay, like maybe 5 of you. Cool. So, theory of constraints is essentially that business is a series of different systems, okay? And the business can only grow up to its most constrained system. Does that make sense? Okay. So there's like, let's say like there's different parts of an ecosystem. Make it more like holistic, mind, people, compatible. There's different parts of an ecosystem. There's like rain, there's sunlight, there's fresh air, there's good soil. Like a plant can only grow up to the most limited resource availability. You guys get that? Like if there's way bad air quality and like that's the biggest constraint, even when everything else is great, the tree can only grow up to the extent that that poor air quality allows. If there's very little water, it can only grow up to the extent that that amount of water allows. You guys get the basic concept?
Yeah.
So business is the same, right? And you have your product, right, as part of it. Oops. Product. You have your sales. You have your fulfillment. There's some others like operations. Marketing. Right, Dean? Dean knows about the theory of constraints. So like, which one of these is limiting your business the most right now? The theory of constraints would tell us. Okay? And it would tell us not based on emotions and how we feel, it would tell us based on numbers and data. So we can always know, like, let's say that, just to bring this example home, like let's say that your product's out of 10 points, right? No particular grading system here. Let's say that your sales is out of 5, right? Let's say that your marketing's out of 2, your operations out of 8, your fulfillment's out of 7. What is the biggest constraint?
Marketing.
Marketing. Simple, right? What's your next biggest constraint?
Sales.
Right? So let's say like we brought your marketing to a 10. But now all that marketing is limited by this only half capacity sales process. It's only at half its potential. You guys get that? But then if we make the sales to its maximum potential, but we're only at a 7 fulfillment, now your fulfillment becomes the issue. You guys get that?
Mhm.
So it's like an ecosystem that's constantly evolving, and the only reason to hire is based on a constraint. Okay? The only reason to hire is when there's constraint in the business that you need to get yourself out of from doing yourself. Okay? So does that make sense as a general concept?
Yeah.
A lot of people hire, including myself, when I was like starting my Ayurveda stuff and even business stuff, like I just hired whatever looked cute. IG manager, content person, a VA to like do my emails, like make my website look cuter. Like none of that shit was a constraint. None of that shit actually generated more revenue for my business.
What category do yams fall under?
DM is under sales, and yeah, right? Because the setter is the frontline salesperson, right? So,
But when does marketing and sales begin?
marketing, raise your hand, right? Sales, you turn that raised hand into a customer, right? Marketing is just people generating interest in your product and raising their hand that they're interested. Sales is when you take them from interested to paying you, right? So, hiring should always be done based on constraints and free up time for the founder to work on higher revenue generating activities. Okay? So the first hire you'll generally have, it's around like 10 to 30K a month, is an appointment setter. Okay? In this model, easiest one. You can take all the leads coming through Instagram and whatever else you're doing and book them onto your calendar for you and get paid a commission on who actually turns into a client.
You
Okay?
pay them hourly and plus commission.
Yeah, a little base, but mostly commission. Okay? The second hire is generally going to be like at the kind of 40-ish K per month. It could range, right? It ranges drastically based on your product. But this can either be a client success manager or a salesperson. Yeah. Salesperson, you could probably wait a bit longer than this. But client success, you might be able to hire at this point.
Question about that. When you say client success, is this like a coach, somebody who's delivering the one-on-one kind of stuff for you?
They don't have to deliver one-on-one. We can talk about it more in another class, but essentially when it comes to like a client success manager, there's two types. One is just a connector. They connect people with the resources and push them through the program. The second type of client success person is an expert, which means that like they're a subject matter expert for the things that you do, and like 80-90% of the questions a client could have can be answered by that person, right? Versus a connector, client success person, they can answer like 20-30% of the high level questions, but really they just refer the person to the right thing, the right class, the right group call, the right person on the team.
Do you think most of these businesses have both, or is it a philosophy to choose one or the other?
I mean, the more technical your thing is, the more expert becomes really necessary, right? But if you're just like doing like health coaching or like whatever, not to say that's not technical, you can have someone just like tracking, like are they filling out their health tracking sheet? Are they sleeping at the right time? Like they can keep them accountable and point them towards the right resources without necessarily having to like be able to read blood work and like read someone's pulse and Ayurveda and like all these other things. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Client success or sales.
Yeah. I'm actually going to change this up for a second. I'm sorry. I'm just going to tell you what I did. I'm gonna continue that track. It'll still make sense here. But up to 40K a month, it was just me. Okay, that's me. And then sometimes. Alright. And then like around 40 to 60-ish, I hired Rossi for the appointment setting. Okay. And then like around 60K-ish a month, I hired Ananda for helping with client success. And then around 100, now we just added, so we had a setter, a CSM, and we had a salesperson. So CSM, setter, and sales. So at 100K a month, it was just me and 3 people. Then 200K a month, it becomes very simple from this point, because essentially all you do to scale your businesses, you spend more money on marketing, you hire more salespeople so they can take the sales calls, and then now there's more clients, so you hire more CSMs, and the cycle just repeats. right? So once you get like that, like 1, 2, 3 people in place, you have a massive opportunity to just scale. So the challenge is just getting from this to this. I'll get to you in a second. So 200K, we just had the same. We had a setter, we had a CSM, but we just had 2 sales peeps. Okay. At 300 K a month, we just had a setter. So again, 1 setter. Yeah, two closers, and then we had 2 CSMs, and then I needed help with operations stuff. So I was doing all the bookkeeping. So I hired a bookkeeper. I hired a content person to like manage social media, like start to grow that. And then I hired a tech person for tech support and to build all your funnels and stuff for you guys. And it added that as part of the product, okay? And then at 400K a month, we just added another setter, another closer, another client success person, and a financial controller. Because the bookkeeper is not a financial controller. And that shit gets wild. When you
What's the difference between
a bookkeeper is basically just someone who puts data in. But a controller is someone who makes sure the data's right. And there's a big difference between just putting data in and making sure it's right.
And also making decisions, right?
They can also help you, like, that's more of like a fractional CFO role where they're like looking at the cash and then they're like projecting the months ahead and like projecting like you could spend X amount more in marketing, you could hire X amount more people, and like project out month over month how much is coming in from payment plans, how much we're expecting to collect, how many more sales we're expecting to get from marketing, how much you can increase everything. So they just like look at all the numbers and they basically just show you the health of your business and where you can go.
So
That's just something I did for myself though. Yeah.
I'm doing that now, but
Yeah.
so I'll be really quick. So we have just like not touched our QuickBooks from last year, and we like
Bless your heart.
we're cooked. So we have to like do our books to do our taxes for last year, which we're like on extension for now. And so
Yeah.
I would love your advice on like, should we just hire a bookkeeper to like go back and do all that? Do we need a controller? Like,
Yeah. Can any of you answer this question?
I can,
Yeah.
actually.
I don't give any.
No. I haven't even asked it yet. So you can't
Oh,
answer
I
it.
thought you were asking
Yeah.
about that question.
That would be really good though, if you could like also telepathically. I'd be like, holy shit. I didn't even say it yet.
I mean, the question is whether, like, a bookkeeper, hiring a bookkeeper in order to get all of that shit done, right? Versus a CFO.
Let me do my thing.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so what's the highest expense in any business? What's the number 1 expense in any business?
Payroll.
Nope. Any other guesses? Marketing? Payroll? Anybody
Cost
else?
of not doing business.
Taxes?
Cost of ignorance?
Ignorance?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I mean,
mistakes, yeah.
Not doing business.
Does it matter where you're at in your business for this to matter?
Time.
Not really. Taxes.
Oh God.
You don't want to F around with this, bro. You want to get someone really good and that does this type of business. Yeah. Right? I left around and found out.
What is the bad thing that happened with that? With effing around?
The bad thing was 80 grand of taxes due. When I should have paid a lot less than that.
Yeah.
And then like late fees, and then like that compounds because it was supposed to be less, so I paid the less, but then there was a balance due, so then I got an insufficient payment notice, and then there's interest on that notice, and it just spirals to like 100 grand. Gone. Just like in 2 weeks. Just because someone effed up your books. So yeah, don't F around with that, or you're gonna find out.
okay.
You're not a CPA, you're not a CFO,
Yeah.
you're just like a dude with like a Google spreadsheet empire. And that's me too, bro, like until recently. But it's actually what's called a data risk, which makes your business like completely unsellable, and so many other things. Like
Yeah.
when your data doesn't actually, you don't know your numbers
So how did you fix it?
painfully, and by hiring a controller. Yeah. So the controller is the one who goes through the pain of, does every spreadsheet in the business match up? Is it automated? Is it accurate? Is it updated daily? Do we have to search for shit in a pile for like 2 weeks to get an answer? Are we estimating numbers? So many things.
I'm confused as to why the bookkeeper, that information might not be right.
Because there's a lot of room for error when it comes to, you have a sales sheet, you have a sales spreadsheet, and then you have to match it up to the Easy Pay Direct, but then there's also payments that are wires, there's also payments that are PayPal, there's also payments that are other things. Then you have to pay out commissions to each, to the setter, but also to the salesperson, and then you have to base the CSM's base rate based on how many clients they're managing. There's a shitload of calculations, and they all have to match up, and then they also have to be reconciled with the QuickBooks to match up with exactly the spreadsheet and exactly the transactions and everything.
This like makes me want to like bounce out of my business.
That's why you can just pay someone $4 grand a month and they'll do it. Because when you're at 300 grand a month, like,
At which point do you hire that person?
you could probably, yeah, like I was pretty good with it, but you could probably do it like somewhere around here. And just have a bookkeeper, and they're gonna like, you just have to manage them. You have to be the controller. But at this point, you don't have like a trillion salespeople, so it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
You just like watch a few videos on managing shit, and you'll get it. Take a deep breath. Exhale. So real quick, I'll share some basics on how to hire and maybe 1 or 2 mistakes, and whoever wants to like bounce and like I'm done with you, you can. So how to hire, there's basically 2 types of hires. There's pre-installed, and there's not pre-installed. I'll just put PI. Pre-installed, not pre-installed. Okay, there's people who are already incredible at the thing that you're hiring them to do. That's pre-installed. Okay, you just have to like get them synced up with your company, the specifics of how you run things, and manage them. Okay, this person is not pre-installed with all the skills. So you have to teach them. You have to mentor them. You have to bring them up. This person is probably the person you can afford as you grow your business. Because pre-installed wants pre-installed pay, which means a lot more, right? Versus this, you're paying part of the salary and the time you have to spend to train them to the level that they need to be to just perform the function, right? It's just kind of the reality of like making your first hire is probably not pre-installed. And the funny thing is, no matter what, and I've learned this painfully, either of these will only perform up to the level of leadership that you give them. So it's kind of annoying. You have to become a good leader to hire. Because it's not just like, great, hire, problem fixed. It's like, great, that problem's fixed, now I have to learn a new skill of management, coaching, high-level performance for the team. But the last thing I'll mention here, just real quick, for hiring is, I think I've shared this with some of you guys. So there's high skill, and then there's low skill. There's high culture, that's what C stands for. Just I don't have the space. And there's low culture. Oops. So you can have someone who's a high culture fit and high skill. You can have someone who's a high culture fit, low skill. You can have someone who's a low culture fit, high skill, low culture fit, low skill. This one's obviously no, right? They are not a culture fit, they're not a skill set fit. But and this one's an obvious yes, right? They have high culture, high skill, right? Now, which of these two is more dangerous for a business? to hire. Let's say for a salesperson or
Low culture.
what is it?
Low culture.
It's like a cancer.
This one?
business. Yeah.
Raise your hand if this is the most dangerous hire you could have. You have to pick one. Okay, so no unraised hands here. Low culture, but high skill set.
Can we assume that we can bring the skill set up?
This one's high skill already. What you're talking about for that one?
Yeah.
You can assume whatever you want in this example. But this is at the point of hire.
You can also just say that like you shouldn't hire either of these people.
You can say that, but that's not the question, right?
What's the question?
Yeah. I
The
agree.
question is
It's
which
culture,
of these
right?
two is more
Dangerous.
dangerous for your business?
No skill.
We cross this out. I'm saying these two. These two. Okay?
Low skill.
Low skill, high culture,
No
or
skill.
high skill, low
I
culture.
still low on that one.
Who says this one? Raise your hand.
Low culture is dangerous.
Okay? So this person's not a culture fit, but they're great at the skill you're hiring them for. Raise your hands again. Raise
As
your
the
hands
most
again.
dangerous?
I think it also depends on what it is, because if it's like for
Sales.
success. Oh, okay. just
Can you
sales.
define culture?
Their values, the way, the way that they show up. I'm not going to do a whole thing on it, but like their values, the way that they show up, their character traits,
I really feel like this is
their
a lot of-
alignment with the mission of the thing that you're doing.
We feel not confident in our answers. So.
Like a second guess.
Who says this one is the most dangerous? Okay, anybody want to like say why this one is the most dangerous? Yeah.
Because I feel like energy is really important, like
Okay.
like sales energetics, and I feel like low culture would not be aligned with like what you're trying to portray and all of that.
It-
That's why.
Okay.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, I feel it will damage the brand with your, they're dealing with the clients, and if the culture's not right energetically, then brand can really crush the brand.
And I'll add to that too that changing culture in a person is almost impossible, but changing skill level is done every day.
Yeah.
So that's why that's dangerous. You're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is this one the most dangerous for those who said? Yeah. Did you,
I
do
feel
you already
like-
know the answer? Like, did I?
No,
Anybody already hear me do this example? You guys are crossed out.
no.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you might be emotionally attached to the person that's a good culture fit, but then they're not actually producing any value for the money you're paying them, so then you get kind of stuck there.
You're hiring them to do a job, and they need to be excellent at their job.
Yeah.
The culture fit, the culture is also the main job of the leader to set that, not necessarily the salesperson.
Yeah.
And so if they're coming in with a high skill, that will help your company to your job to set the culture.
Yeah.
It also sucks to hire the people who are good culture fits and that skill, and it's tough for morale.
Yeah. Y'all want to know my opinion? My experience? Painfully learned. This one's the most painful. This one's the worst for your business because of exactly what these guys said. You like them. You like them, but they don't actually effing perform the function that they were hired for.
Wait, the other one's the one that's most dangerous.
This one's the most dangerous.
High culture is the
Oh,
most
oh,
dangerous.
Yeah, high culture, so they're like great, wonderful person, totally believe in everything you do, but they suck at the thing you hired them for.
Yeah.
Basically, just you should keep them. You want to pay them, but don't have them do anything. But hire.
Pay them to do nothing?
Well, basically, if you're expecting them to do something and they can never do it,
Yeah.
if you're wanting to charity and just like help them out because you like them, it's almost.
I would like not even have them in my business.
No,
Or just like
I
if they need
agree.
money, I'll just
I
like
agree.
donate money.
I
But like,
totally agree, but if that's basically what we're doing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So by far, this
Okay.
one, this one, this one, this one, especially when they're in a revenue generating role like appointment setting or sales.
Mm.
Okay? Because you like them, but they're not making sales. You like them, but they're not setting appointments. And then that's the whole revenue line of your business.
Well, I have a question. This was
Yeah.
at the point of hire, though. Like, how do you assess their skills?
That's a whole nother question.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a really good question. It's, yeah, don't get me wrong, that's a very good question.
So
It's just kind of a little bit beyond like how do you hire the perfect person? The main point I can tell you is be excellent so you can recognize excellence. If you're excellent at sales, put them through a mock call. You'll be able to tell real quick. How do they frame the call? How do they lead the discovery? How do they deal with objections? How do they hold themselves? So many things, right? Like all the things that you've used to train yourself in setting and sales and whatever, put them through that rubric that I would put you through, or that Eugene would put you through, or that Ananda would put you through, right? So, Ananda G.
Maybe you mentioned it, but I'm wondering, did you say anything about, because you may hire someone that has like a certain skill level, but then also the opportunity as the person hiring to bring them to that higher level. Did you speak to that at all?
Can you repeat it, sir?
Yeah. The responsibility of the person hiring to also bring them, like, set the expectations clearly. So if like the skills aren't appearing, that the expectations are set first before the assessment of like, oh, you don't have the skills to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think a lot of it, like that I'm learning, comes down to the art of hiring and understanding, like, there's so many like kind of cliche quotes, like the Super Bowl's won in the draft, and you know, so many things like that. Like Abraham Lincoln's like, you know, you give me an hour to chop a tree, I'll spend 50 minutes sharpening the axe. So like doing that pre-work, because like mishiring is one of the most costly things any business can do. It's like 1 or 2 or 3x. Anyways, I don't know the number. It's a large amount, like whatever you would pay them in a year. That amount's immediately deducted from your business by mishiring somebody. And guess what? I've done this like 9 times.
How many times have you done the other?
Oh, everyone you see here. Not this.
Right. Have you ever done the low culture, high skill?
Yeah, probably like twice. But it was really more like this in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've never had someone that was delivering but was a poor culture fit?
Yeah, they were never like firing off. They were like up and down, and then it's like when you're up and down, you're really here.
Yeah.
And so
This is painful.
when someone is high culture, low skill, and then they turn out to not be performing,
You have to fire
handle
them. Yeah, so there's so much in here, right? So let me go through some of the mistakes real quick. If anybody wants to like leave, no judgment.
There's also some snacks out of
Yeah. Can someone bring them here so that people who want to stay can stay? If anybody wants to leave, please do, no judgment. I'll stay for like another 10 minutes for whoever wants it. But let me just go through my mistakes real quick. There's like a trillion when it comes to hiring. Wait.
Oh my goodness.
We'll just speed it up
Snack
if we can.
Thank you. Great. I'll pass it around.
Wow, bro. Sure, why not?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody want to hear
A couple of plantain chips?
Oh yeah.
Oh god. Okay, you guys ready?
Uh-huh.
Guys got your snacks? Okay. Number 1 mistake. I mean, they're all pretty shitty. When I look at them, like, yeah. But number 1 thing that I was very ignorant on is understanding the business function of every single hire that you make. What constraint are they solving? How do they increase revenue in the business? Right? So like, even when I realized the extent to which I didn't know this when I asked team members this question. I asked, like, for instance, the client success coach, this was a while back, but I said, do you know what your function to the business is? And they said, oh, you know, like, we help clients, you know, get wins, and like, you know, we like collect testimonials, and like we keep people accountable. I was like, yes, that's like your function to the clients, what's your function to the business? And it was like crickets, right? The only ways to make money are to sell more people, right? One. Have them stay longer, right? And like make them essentially worth more by having them buy again, right? So how is this person doing that? How? Yeah, appreciate it. Just got my snack hijacked. Okay. So, for instance, anybody know how a client success coach increases revenue in a business? Or plays the role
It's that bottleneck thing we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, there's
They
that.
increase client satisfaction, which turns them into repeating clients.
Yeah.
And referrals.
Okay, so increase retention. Right? A referral decreases the cost per acquisition, what it costs to get a client, because it's free. Right? So your marketing cost actually goes down.
They also help to create good testimonials, which increases sales.
Yeah, so she's saying testimonials help you make more sales, right? So you could either just say again, like decrease cost per acquisition because you have more social proof. When you have a massive wall of testimonials, more people will click through to the next step and buy.
But
right?
so many people have reached out to me on Instagram because they saw my testimonial and asked me like, should I hire you?
Yeah, and you're
Oh
like,
my
hell
god,
no.
yeah, so many of those.
There you go.
It's a little annoying.
You don't have to reply to any of them, by the way. You're not obliged.
I'm like, fucking do it. Stop asking me questions. Just trust yourself. Go.
Okay, anything else?
Client success manager. You already said what you
They also decrease what's called churn, which is the amount of people who leave, who don't pay the contract to its completion. Right?
Yeah.
That's a way of increasing revenue because you guys all, I think many of you have had that happen, right? You have someone join, they pay the first payment, and then they ghost.
Yeah.
That's whatever's beyond that first payment, you just lost that.
Yeah.
But you still paid for ads, you still paid for everything else. Right? So they decrease that because the better the handoff to the product and the higher the touch the handoff is to the product, the less this 7-day churn happens, right, in the first 7 days. If you have 7-day churn, which means people drop in on the first 7 days, you have an onboarding problem. Okay? You're not onboarding people the right way. The trade-off from sales conversation to product sucks. So people are leaving. 30-day churn is like the first challenges that they're going through. They don't have sufficient support around it. So how many people are leaving in the first 30 days? And then you have lifetime churn, which is just like during the contract time period, how many people don't actually pay the full value, and how many people cancel or ask for a refund, or they also decrease refunds too, right? And then they also generate their own revenue through back-end sales. So like CSM ends up being your third line of salespeople. You have your setters, that's your first line, your closers, your sales team, and then you have the client success team that can sell again after the person's successful. And then they can make way more money when they get good at this. Right, so they can make like multiple 6 figures if they get good at that.
Can you provide some examples of like the back-end sales for the CSM program? I guess we'll probably all find out at some point. I'm curious.
Yeah, the mastermind.
Okay.
Right, there's the 4-month program. For some time there was like a 6-month one-on-one program, and then there's the 1-year mastermind. So that mastermind we sell after the 4-month and 6-month. And I'll talk all about that in 2 days from now. How I'm actually going to have all you make your back-end programs.
Great. That's one of my to-do lists.
Because as soon as you have people starting to win, they can actually start going into that. And you didn't have to pay anything to get another person, make another sale. They just went into the next thing for free. right? And when you can do that, it's insane, right? Like if you have a program that's 5K and the back end's 10K, now you just made someone. Okay. So now you just turn someone from a 5K lifetime value and you just tripled the LTV without spending an extra dollar on ads. And that's where you can get very aggressive with your marketing spend because you know that, let's say, 1 out of 5 of the people will do this. So you have all that extra ammunition to deploy into marketing. Even if the costs go up, it's fine because you know this is going to happen.
That's juicy.
We're going to talk about that in 2 days. So that was the biggest mistake, is not understanding the business function that every single person plays in terms of revenue, increasing revenue or decreasing risk. Okay. Another principle was having a vision big enough that high-level people's big vision can fit within. You get that?
Can you say it again?
Having a vision for your company that's big enough that other people who have big vision, their big vision can fit inside of it.
As employees or clients? Or
As
both?
team members.
As team members.
We're talking about hiring. And along the same lines, a big mistake I made was having an opportunity in which it would be unreasonable for that hire to blow it out of the water. Right? Like I was saying earlier, like if you hire somebody for sales and they're only getting like 3 sales calls a week, it's not a situation in which they can blast off. And I've made that mistake to where it's like the marketing's not quite there. And then I'm hiring this person and they're actually a great person, but there's not enough opportunity for them to hit their goal. And that's a shitty position to be in.
But don't they have opportunity for warm and cold outreach and?
They can, but
Yeah.
you'd have to dial that culture in that they're responsible for like creating their own opportunity, and that had to be an expectation upon hire, made, which I didn't do, right? Another mistake. A very little knowledge of what a true A player looks like. That was another huge. Just like anyone who like sounded good was like, you're hired. Great. Also, let me just get through this real quick. No consequence of not hitting KPIs, like key performance indicators, like hitting your projections, hitting your goals. Like it was just like we kind of arbitrarily set it, and then it wouldn't happen, and it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll arbitrarily set it again next week or next month.
Is the consequence like a fire? Or
Not,
like to
not
let them go
necessarily,
after
like
3
I
times?
wouldn't go straight to that. You didn't hit it, fired.
Yeah.
No, but it's really like dialing in, like dialing in how they set projections so that they become more accurate.
Yeah.
And so that there's an unbreakable bond between what they say and what actually happens, because that's when the team really starts to fire off.
Yeah.
And even if they have to set the projections lower, as long as they're hitting it, that's better than setting something high and then not knowing why you didn't hit it, because then it means you're not coachable, you can't learn, you don't know why something didn't happen, which means you can't actually serve the function of that role. You don't know why your sales calls didn't convert. Whereas when you can look back and you say, oh, I projected 3 sales this week, but I only hit 1, and I know exactly why, and that's what I'm going to change next week, that's a different sort of situation, right? Cost of switching, right? Like cost of switching employees, that was another huge mistake. So like keeping, in that example, this person that was high culture, low skill, like I just kept nice people that sucked at their duty, right? Like I loved them, and they're like so bought in. They're like, I love what you're doing. They had amazing stories like that played into CBN, and like I really wanted to see them win. I was like, you got this, and I was like trying to pour so much energy into them, and then they would just not perform, and I just kept them because one, I'd have to go through the painful process of, hey, we're hiring, hey, like having all these interviews, and then training somebody up again, and here's our sales process, here's our product, here's our blah, 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 reviewing all their initial calls. Like, it's painful to do it. And I did that 9 times for a sales role.
Wow.
And then the last one I'll share, we can end, is if my team members were clients who were paying me a lot of money, could I say that I'm 100% providing the education, leadership, and systems for them to get their high-level promise of the role? You get what I'm saying? So it's like, once you start having a team, you have two sets of clients. You have your clients that bought the program, and you have the clients who bought into your company. And are the people who are buying into your company set up for success in the same way that the clients who are buying into your program are set up for success? Like, if I hired a salesperson and they paid me 20 grand to be a part of the CBM team, just as an example, do they have high-level education, high-level quality control, leadership, calls to go to, like one-on-one support, like do they have everything that they need so that it would be like unreasonable for them to not actually blast off? And I reflected and I was like, no, they don't. I need to do way more. I need to do way more leadership, way more quality control, way more education. That's the only way I could anticipate them winning, you know? So anyways, these are very painful mistakes.
Thanks
for laying it out.
So generous to share.
Appreciate that. Cool. Was that okay?
Very
Rebel?
Yes.
No, I need a refund.
I can take maybe like 1-2 questions and we can end. Yeah.
So I have a question about the numbers. I was wondering for you said that there was some nuance based on how much your offer is. Are you projecting that based on the CBM offer number of like?
Not really.
No. Okay.
It's kind of like more towards your guys' price points.
Okay.
Because that's what I was doing with Ayurveda.
Got it.
When I hit 40K a month or whatever.
Got it.
It was like 3K-ish price point.
Got it.
But it does vary. It just depends. Yeah. Anybody else?
Do you think there's any way to like actually avoid making big mistakes like this? Or do you think that it's pretty much inevitable that you have to make just gigantic mistakes that are going to cost you a lot of money?
Did you want to make all these for nothing and you could have done it a different way? Or was it inevitable? That's like how I interpreted it. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
I hope we can learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, so in the yoga tradition, it says there's, I forget, either 3 or 4 levels of learning. The highest level of learning is to hear from someone who has realized the truth and do it their way. The second way of learning is to, what is it?
Hear about it, then experience it yourself, and then learn.
Oh, no. It's to see someone else make a mistake.
Bottom to the top? Oh, no.
So see someone else make the mistake and be like, oh, don't do that. The third way is you have to make the mistake yourself and then you learn. And the fourth way is you make the mistake yourself and you still don't learn. That's the hierarchy of learning in the yoga tradition. So you tell me, do you have to make it? There is a large factor of like you don't know what you don't know, and I'm like presenting a very brief overview of basically scaling to a $6 million company. And many years and many mistakes and many micro things. So like there is an ignorance tax you have to pay down, and I agree with like if you want to make 100K, you have to waste at least 10-20K, just burn it. If you want to make $1 million,
Burn it first, just gone.
yeah, it's just pretty much gone. If you want to make $1 million, like burn at least 100 grand.
Wow.
Yeah. If you want to make 10 million, like burn at least $1 million in mistakes, at least.
Yeah.
But that's just paying down your ignorance tax because, like, every day, like, for those of you who raised your hands, like, raise them again. Who here wants to be like above 50 grand a month? Okay, just think about wherever you're at, whatever that number is, and subtract the two.
Okay.
You got the number?
Yeah.
That's what you're paying every month in ignorance taxes.
That's way too much.
So that's like the biggest thing burning your pocketbook right now is ignorance around the skills needed to have a 50K a month business and what a 50K a month leader looks like, which is why I taught this class.
This is not considering real taxes.
This is not even considering real taxes. Like, take that amount, subtract it, and then also deduct taxes from like the not earning. Like, Yeah, just you could do profit, compare profit levels. Anybody feel like this is a little bit more doable to get to where you want to go?
Yes.
Raise your hand.
It's nice to have the option.
Okay. Some people less optimistic. That's okay. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Let's go, guys.
Thanks for the
Painful
mistakes.
mistakes.
Mistakes were great.
There's so many more, but that's all I have.
I
for
can
today.
imagine.
There's almost